In this next series of videos, I'm going to cover a few things that they're things that people ask me about all the time. How do I improve speed? How do I throw punches without giving it away? How do I lift my leg off the ground whenever I'm kicking where I can kind of control my equilibrium a little better? And these are all common things within the martial arts or self-defense, however you want to define it, that people have to deal with. So as I go through this, just kind of practice these things, go along with the videos, but most important of all, as you're practicing, concentrate on some of the salient points that I'm going to cover as you're practicing. And bottom line is, have fun with this stuff, because if you're not having fun with it, you're just going to get flustered and, get all crazy, and there's no need to. Now, one of the things that people always ask me about, and that is how to get smoother, how to get more fluid, how to learn how to relax in the arms when they're striking. And I go over this in the Down and Dirty course, and I also go over this in the Fast Hands course, and of course, the Sensory Flow course. So what I'm going to show here, very basic, very generic, but just something to get you started, but also to kind of give you an idea that if you trained in, say, boxing, you trained in kickboxing, you trained in karate or kung fu, and I know for some people in the reality-based martial arts arena, I speak sacrilege when I'm going to say, it's not that the techniques per se are bad or don't work. It's that the way in which people train the techniques in the body make the technique unworkable once people start moving dynamically. In other words, it is not the technique that is magic. It is you that make technique work. And so in order for you to make technique work, you got to be able to develop your body to do some very basic things at a fundamental level, because last time I checked, you go into a fight, you got to bring your body, right? And this is the way it is. I mean, unless you're going to project your astral projection or your astral body into the fight. I don't know how that happens or how that works. I'm just telling you, you got to bring your body to the fight, so you got to develop your body. So one of the things I get people doing is, early on, is getting kind of more fluid in the shoulders and the arms. So one of the things I'll show, and this is just a really basic thing, is I get them first just bringing their hands up. What I'll do is, first I just have them moving their arms, kind of dog paddling forward, dog paddling backwards. But what I'm trying to get them to concentrate on is being as relaxed in the arms as possible, relaxed in the muscles as much as possible, and only using enough muscle to perform this action. Then I get them going back and forth, kind of like a hula dancer, and notice I'm kind of like rolling the shoulders. Then I have them going up and down, and I'll turn sideways so you can see this better. And what I'm doing is I'm actually getting them to learn how to use their muscles and become more seamless and fluid in their movement. Obviously, when you're moving fast, it never feels like you're as loose or as fluid as you think you should be. And that's because when your muscles are expanding and contracting as fast as possible, there's always going to be that kind of almost jerky feeling at the end, as the muscle is preventing your arm from fully extending where you'd hyperextend yourself. So as I'm doing this kind of stuff, what I'm doing is training the muscles to be able to move in this fashion. And then I go back and forth. Then I put one hand over the top. Then I kind of do this thing that Grandmaster Perkins used to do called the dig dog, where his hands are just going back and forth. And then I do stuff like this. Then I even roll kind of a little ball. Then I kind of just mix it up as I go along. And what you're doing there is you're just trying to train your muscles to be able to move wherever you want your hand to be in the fight, because none of us knows what we got to do. We got to do it. And the time to figure out what to do with your doggone hands is not in the middle of the battle, okay? So the whole purpose of training is to cause a change in behavior so you can kind of take care of that before you get into the fight. Once I've done that a couple times, I then speed it up, or what I call speed flow. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to start off maybe, half speed, then I go 3/4 speed, and then full speed. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to train your muscles to be able to accelerate to violence. In other words, if you want to learn how to move your hands fast, you got to practice moving your hands fast. I'm sorry, there's no other way around it. So all these people who get wrapped around the axle, you always got to stay slow, you always want to be flowing and slow and graceful, it's just not realistic. You can still be graceful and moving at speed. You just have to understand that visually, it doesn't look as graceful, obviously, as you're moving slower, because of the fact that there are also things you cannot see at speed. As you practice this, you want to every now and then start throwing strikes. So I just do simple things, chops, palm strikes, chops, and I mix it up, maybe some punches, maybe some uppercuts. What you're doing is you're learning how to develop the muscles in your arms. As you start getting your body more behind it and doing other things, and I have whole programs where I show people how to move their body, what I call the custom model bob and weave stuff, but a little more applicable to self-defense since we're not trying to box. And what you're doing is, as you're moving and you're practicing all these different movements, all these different strikes, you start off slow, feeling it in the body, being as smooth as possible, and then you start building up speed. Eventually, you want to start practicing that stuff where you're striking, where you're hitting and you're doing the same thing, and you're trying to develop your timing. So if I'm here hitting, I want to be able to develop my timing, but I also want to be able to move as fast as possible in the most efficient manner. One of the things about smooth movement, as I'm moving smoothly, is smooth movement always, 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 understand this, requires you got to move your body with it. So what you want to do is just practice rolling the hands forward, rolling the hands back, and then going back and forth. So what you can do is you can go ahead and pause the video and just practice that. So now that you've practiced that a little bit, just start now practicing moving your hands, relatively speaking, anywhere you want. Just getting used to it, but making sure that everything you're doing for now is deliberate so that you can feel yourself learning how to control your body, learning how to control your equilibrium. Later on, I get into things where, especially in the down and dirty, where I talk about how we manipulate space. In other words, as I'm moving, I can actually change direction from the lightest touch, where I can move my body. Very similar to what boxers do. Boxers actually do this all the time, where they're here and they're dodging strikes. They're not just doing this, they're actually moving their head. This is the reason why when they get hit, a lot of times it has no effect, because they're not just turning their body. They're not just bobbing and weaving. They're also making adjustments and they're moving, but they're not moving so much that they're unnecessarily exposing themselves. A lot of good stuff in boxing. Unfortunately, though, when it comes to self-defense, there are a lot of things that you learn in boxing that are not applicable to the street, but that if you just started using your hands a little more, it would be much easier for you. The punches, obviously, is second to none. So as I'm doing this stuff, all I'm doing is practicing, being able to get that feel, to develop that in the body, and then any punches you already know how to do, you just practice doing them. Hey, I want to thank you for checking out the video. I have a lot of fun doing these kind of things, and I'm going to be doing more of this stuff. And if you like what you see, make sure you hit the button below and subscribe to the channel.